What's going on, all my gamers, all my Zenless Zone Zero gamers? So today I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of the story 1.4, right? It is the chapter 5 story, so this is the conclusion of the story of everything that has gone on for the past 4 patches. So a lot of this stuff does get concluded and intertwined and stuff like that, but there are some pros and some cons which I do want to talk about. And first I want to talk about the cons, because the cons, some of them you guys might not even think these are cons, but for me, some of these took me out of the story, and you know, it's just some stuff I had a problem with, right, chat? I guess this is something we have to talk about when it comes to all these kinds of Hoyo games with the current company that they're using for recording the lines and stuff like that, and all this back and forth with the, I guess this does have to do with the protests. I don't actually know. Someone said that they were just actual scheduling conflicts, but there's about 4 to 5 characters that were not. Okay, so there's the 4 characters from Victoria Housekeeping plus Kaleda, so it's like 5 characters that were not voiced, and I gotta say, we gotta figure this out eventually, right? We can't just keep having these characters not voiced in English. I have this game in English, and you know, some people would just be like, oh, just change it to Japanese, but I do think that the English in this game does such a serviceable job that you have to at least give the English a chance. You know, I'm sure Billy does sound great in Mandarin, Korean, and in Japanese, but I think his English VA does a great job. So I don't mind having it in English. Plus I hate reading, chat. You know how I feel about reading. So having it in English works for me. But of course, English VAs not being there, it's just gonna kill the vibes for me. They gotta either figure it out or find a new company. Or I don't want to say that they gotta fire everyone, right? Because if they are doing this because of the protests and stuff like that, and you know, fighting against AI and getting to keep their jobs, sure, right? I get that, but someone's got to show up to the office, bro. You can't all just not be working. And you know what? It sounds insensitive, and I understand it, but I mean, I'm going to be patient because I know the reason. If they're just being lazy, then yeah, replace them all. But of course, you know, they're fighting against AI voices and stuff like that. Sure, I get it. And there's also another, speaking of voice actors, not a voice actor, but a problem in the game is there's a random bug which kept taking me out of the Ching Yi parts. Ching Yi shows up in the story and they're talking. Her voice, her mouth doesn't move. Now, I know for some people this might not be a big problem, but for me, I'm just like staring at her, expecting her to talk, and then Ching Yi's mouth just doesn't move. She just stays, like, she does have her movements and her animation, stuff like that, but her mouth is not moving in, you know, not the animated parts, but the, you know, the like comic, you know, when everyone, it shows them on screen and they're doing their parts, the Zenless Zone Zero talking parts. Her voice, her mouth doesn't move. It just feels weird. Anyways, now we can get into some parts which are the gameplay parts. Some of the gameplay parts that I do have a problem with is this story, and I get it, it's to keep the story flowing and you don't get stuck on any part, but I feel like for a last story, a last part of the chapter, everything was just way too easy, and this is everything scaled up, right? I think I'm AR 56 as of starting this story. If not, I was at 55 going into 56, and all my characters are level 60, but when you use the trial characters, their characters are level 55, so 5 levels under max level, and even still everything is easy. You mostly play as Miyabi, and I'm not sure if this is just a testament to how broken she is as female Virgil, you know, hey, this is power, but I feel like everything you fight as Miyabi just dies way too easily, you know. I would have liked a little bit of a challenge because this is the final chapter of the first story, right? You know, a little bit of difficulty, you know, it wouldn't have been that bad. And that also includes Bringer, chat. This is a spoiler, you know, this is not going to be a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't played it, I would at least wait, right? But Bringer, who becomes the last big bad, he gets infused with the Hollow, he becomes corrupted, and he is just a huge taking on the power of Miyabi's Demon Blade, as well as being enhanced in their own way with being injected with ether twice, which makes him even stronger. Even then, he felt way too piss easy. I know he's gonna be harder in Notorious Hunt, which is where he comes out, you know, if you need it's pretty much the weekly boss kind of thing. He is a boss in Notorious Hunt. That place, I'm sure he'll be harder. I think he'll be level 65. That's usually where they have him at max level where I'm at. But until then, dude, the story, he was just too easy. Like it was kind of just, you know, it's whatever. I know some people are like, okay, you know, it's a story, they gotta move it along, and I understand that, but I just felt like as the last boss of the final chapter, could have been a little bit harder, right? Something that I thought was gonna be a little bit more, this is a narrative complaint, something that I thought was gonna be a little bit more inconvenient, or at least be a little bit more than an inconvenience, was Miyabi's sword. So Miyabi's sword does freak out on her in the hollow. You guys have to fix it. You get a temporary fix, and from there on, she pretty much can handle the sword. But you learn later on that there's a demon in the sword that takes on one of the people of the Hoshimi family. Though Miyabi didn't go through this, you know, through this ceremony, so the sword did not take over Miyabi. She is just that strong naturally. She did not take on the power of the sword. Later on, they try to make it to where she does take on the power of the sword, and it kind of makes her go a little bit insane. But because of this, you would think, you know, maybe someone gets hurt, maybe she hurts somebody, you know, cause some chaos where people will doubt her and stuff like that, and she has to live with the regret of blah 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 blah, maybe hurting some people, or maybe even just putting on a spectacle. Nope. The story, that part, she gets it resolved really easily, because as she sees it, Juyuin kicks her into the hollow. I felt like it should have been a little bit more of a high stakes thing, but you know, it had a cool scene. You kind of see you play Miyabi inside of her mind as she fights off with the sword. I think it's super sick. It actually reminds me, if you guys have played Honkai Star Rail, it reminds me of the domain, the Nihility domain. I think that's pretty cool. I thought it looked sick, but you know, I'm just saying I wish it was a little bit more inconvenient for Miyabi. But I think that's all the cons, to be honest. There wasn't a lot of cons, you know. I could say, oh, Zenless Zone 0 stories, blah, 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 blah. But when you go into Zenless Zone, you're going into this story at chapter 5. At this point, you know what this story is. You know why you're here. You're not going to be complaining like, oh, this story's too simple, blah, 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 right? Now, let's get into the pros, and boy, are there a lot of them. I love this story, Chad. I cannot lie to you. Now, my favorite part so far has got to be everyone interacting with each other. I love stuff like that, and this story just tickles that part of my brain, you know. Everyone, Section 6 and the Cunning Hairs having their standoff where Billy stands there super cool with his hand on his blade, or his hand on his gun, just waiting for someone to make a move. You know, that stuff is cool, as well as the end and all that stuff. I'll talk about the end later, but for right now, you know, one thing I did like to talk about is, or one thing I do want to talk about is the interaction with these characters, and some of these characters actually knowing each other from before, like Nicole knowing Miyabi and Juyuin knowing Miyabi as well. It didn't seem too out of nowhere. You know, Miyabi went to school with Juyuin, so that is explained pretty well. Miyabi, you know, when she was younger and she was more naive, was tricked into having her katana stolen by Nicole. Nicole gave it back, so they became acquaintances. I was gonna say friends, but more of acquaintances, so they know of each other. It didn't seem too out of left field, like, oh, we secretly have known each other this whole time, we just didn't tell you, and here's a really stupid explanation. In my opinion, I think the explanation suffices. I'm like, you know what? That's great. That's funny. I love it. I don't know. It didn't seem random, right? To me, it felt great. Well, I did say this was a con, but I loved playing as Miyabi. Playing her as a character, she becomes a trial character for most of the story. You actually get to use Miyabi for a lot of the story. It does revolve around her, so she is going to be the character that you're going to use in your trial runs. She's great. She's basically female Virgil. You know, she has her what do you call it? Well, I'm trying to think of it. Her judgment cut end slashes. It's really cool. I love Miyabi. I need to get her. I'm actually very close to getting her in this story with these primos. You know, they put me in closer. One thing I do love more than anything is the animated scenes in this game. And man, there are a lot of animated scenes in this game that just feel amazing. I think two of my favorites have to be Piper's chase, where they chase down you guys, where you guys are being transported by Piper in one truck, and Billy and the other cutting hairs are another one, where you guys are trying to run away from some mercenaries, and you get to see Piper's driving skills. You know, Granny Piper coming in clutch, dude. It's a great chasing. If you guys haven't seen it, or maybe I'll upload my full playthrough, we'll find out. You know, if you guys see it, you're gonna love it. I think it's great. And of course, because this is a whole story of everyone together, the Avengers Assemble moment where everyone is on screen just for the final fight. It's sick. I love it. I think it's great. I know. It's great. And also, I think the last boss was layered pretty well. Now, what I mean by that is there is a you fighting Bringer in the beginning, and then he gets another power-up, in which case you have to actually run from him to another spot and then fight him again. I think that was pretty well. You know, it gives you the sense of, you know, you got to run from this guy because he's the big bad and he's strong. I don't know. I think it's great. He is easy, but, you know, I thought it was great. And then in the end, as Miyabi goes to finish Bringer, a song drop that was amazing. Just like with, I'm trying to think of, just like with Robin and with Cochlea and Honkai Star Rail, during Miyabi's world-ending slash, she kills Bringer, and she hits him so hard it like leaves a slash in the hollow, which is something I guess only Miyabi can do. Oh, the song drop is so cool. Ooh, Miyabi has her own world-ending slash. That's so cool. I don't know. I love these games with their world-ending slashes. They've done one with Akron, and they've done one with Miyabi. I thought it was great. And also Sarah. Sarah's getting away. You know, that could lead into another story. I think that they have this set up perfectly to where we can move on to the next chapter. I loved it. I thought it was great. You know, Sarah is hot. She's a bad person, but boy, her tits are huge. That's all I need to know. And also, I think there's a very nice ending with the credits. I think the post-credit scene is really, really cool. You know, you see all the characters interacting with each other in stills. You know, it would have been cool if it was animated, but the still images just show off a bunch of emotions between these characters interacting in a way that I thought was such a good ending. You know, it shows the lead actors and it says a little description of all the characters. You know, Anton, it says the true bro of Bellabog Industries and stuff like that. So that's how I feel. I think it was great. Also, this is one more con I didn't really talk about, but at the end, this is a big problem for me, chat. I didn't think anyone else is going to feel this way. I feel this way. After that post-credit scene, I felt like it should have been done. Perfect ending, everything. But it's not. In fact, you actually meet Astra Yao and Evelyn, and you actually have a quest with her. I didn't like it, chat. I'm not going to lie. It just feels like after having such a perfect ending to the story, it just seems so out of left field that it's like this. Okay, I feel like this should have waited until the next patch. I know some people aren't gonna like that. They think it's good. They like Astra Yao. I like Astra Yao and I like Evelyn. They're very cool. They're hot. Their tits are huge. You know, I'm not complaining about the characters. I'm just complaining about the spot in the story after everything is done. I'm just saying it should have been the start of her own story in the next patch. I don't know. That's how I feel. Anyways, chat, let me know how you guys feel. Did you like 1.4? Or are you guys playing 1.4 just yet? You know, well, unfortunately, there's spoilers if you didn't play. Well, here you go. Anyways, chat, come back and subscribe, and I will catch you gamers in the next one.
Bring me down, I can't over nightmares. Oh, we can tame the darkness. If you can see